Today we break down every single weapon used in combat by Navy SEALs. From the pistol that failed them when it mattered most, to the rifle that got Bin Laden. Chapter 1. The Rifles. In the 1960s, the Cold War was dominated by the M14. The regular army hated it. They called it useless lumber. But SEALs kept it in the inventory for decades. Why? Because they didn't care about comfort. They cared about killing power. Sometimes you just need raw 7.62 stopping power to punch through trees and brick walls. But for the tight jungles of Vietnam, the heavy wooden rifles were a death sentence. They needed speed. Enter the Colt M16. Compared to the old steel guns, this looked like alien technology. It was made of black aluminum and plastic, so light that troops jokingly called it the Mattel toy. But for the SEALs, standard issue wasn't enough. They took this space-age rifle and chopped the barrel almost in half to create the CAR-15. This is the grandfather of the modern commando carbine. By cutting the barrel, they turned a rifle into a fire-breathing beast. It was incredibly loud and produced a massive muzzle flash, basically a handheld flashbang. In a tight ambush, a SEAL could spray lead at 900 rounds per minute, overwhelming the enemy with pure noise and fire. By the 90s, the M4A1 carbine changed the game. It introduced the Picatinny rail, allowing operators to bolt on lasers, lights, and optics like Lego blocks. But wars moved from open fields to tight urban centers and ship decks. Suddenly, the M4 felt too long to swing. In a narrow ship corridor, if your barrel hits a doorframe, you die. So they chopped it again. The result? The Mk18 CQBR. With a barrel cut down to just 10.3 inches, it screams loud and spits fire. They traded bullet velocity for pure maneuverability. But inside the fatal funnel of a doorway, range doesn't matter. Speed is the only king. Because in a knife fight inside a phone booth, Mark 18 ensures the operator shoots first and goes home alive. But the M4 had a fatal flaw: reliability. Under heavy automatic fire, the M4 overheats and jams. And in a firefight, a jam means you're dead. The SEALs demanded a fix, and Heckler & Koch delivered the HK416. By replacing the M4's gas tubes with a solid piston rod, they created a machine that refuses to stop. It runs cool, it runs clean, and it fires immediately after coming out of the water, longer than anything else in the armory. This isn't just a rifle, it's an insurance policy. This reliability is exactly why it was the weapon of choice for DevGru during Operation Neptune Spear. Simply put, it is the gun that got Bin Laden. But in the mountains of Afghanistan, distance was the enemy. The standard rifles were useless beyond 300 meters in the high winds. So they put the vintage M14 on steroids to create the Mk14 EBR. It was an ergonomic nightmare. It was heavy, ugly, and a pain to carry. Operators hated it. They nicknamed it the cheese grater. But tactically, it was a savior. It extended their lethal reach from 300 to 800 meters. It proved that in war, you don't need a weapon that feels good. You need a weapon that works. At the same time, they wanted precision without the weight. Enter the Mark 12 Special Purpose Rifle. It wasn't a sniper rifle, and it wasn't a standard carbine. It was the perfect middle ground. With match-grade ammo and a longer barrel, it allowed a SEAL to drop a target at 600 meters, then rush into a room and clear it with the same gun. Eventually, they tried to replace everything with the FN SCAR. They tested the SCAR-L to replace the M4. But the SEALs realized it didn't do anything better than their existing rifles, so they famously canceled it. Instead, they stuck with the FN SCAR Heavy. Love it or hate it, this rifle retired the heavy Mk14 EBR. The result is undeniable. It is a rare beast that can dominate the enemy at 700 yards and still clear a room at point-blank range. Chapter 2. Shotguns. In the SEAL teams, the shotgun has a nickname, the Master Key. Why? because it unlocks any door on the planet. In the thick jungles of Vietnam, leading the patrol was the point man, and his best friend was the Ithaca Model 37. It was the only shotgun that kept working when dragged through swamp water, thanks to its bottom ejection design. To make it deadlier, they welded on the duck bill choke. It shaped the buckshot into a wide horizontal wall of death. In a sudden ambush, you didn't need to aim perfectly. You just needed to sweep the trigger and let physics do the rest. But the SEALs wanted more firepower. They experimented with the Remington 7188. Imagine a shotgun, but fully automatic. It could dump 8 rounds of buckshot in 1 second. It was devastating, turning a jungle path into a meat grinder. But the recoil was so violent, it often broke the gun and dislocated operators' shoulders. It was a weapon too powerful for its own good, and it was quickly retired. Between Vietnam and the War on Terror, one shotgun did the heavy lifting, the Remington 870. It was the pump-action workhorse, simple, brutal, and unbreakable. But the SEALs upgraded it into the MCS, or Modular Combat Shotgun. Think of it as a weaponized Lego set. Operators could strip it down in seconds, transforming it from a long-barreled patrol weapon into a tiny pistol-gripped door breacher that fits in a backpack. It wasn't fancy, but for 30 years it was the ultimate shapeshifter. Today, the king of close-quarters violence is the Benelli M4. Modern warfare requires speed. The Benelli is semi-automatic and uses a unique gas system that regulates itself, whether you're using light birdshot or heavy slugs to blow hinges off a door. The Benelli cycles as fast as you can pull the trigger. Why carry a rifle and a shotgun when you can bolt the shotgun under the rifle? It was essentially a sawed-off Remington 870 mounted directly beneath the M4's barrel. It gave the point man an instant switch. Pull the main trigger for the enemy, reach forward and pull the shotgun trigger for the door. It turned the assault rifle into a universal skeleton key. Chapter 3. Submachine Guns. Rifles are for the battlefield, but when the mission moves to a ship's hallway or a bedroom, you don't need range, you need silence. In the early days, they relied on the World War II era M3A1 grease gun. It was ugly, stamped from cheap steel, and looked like a tool you'd find in a mechanic's garage. But it had a secret. It fired so slowly that it was incredibly easy to suppress. It wasn't pretty, but in the hands of a SEAL, it was a silent artist. Before the grease gun took over, the SEALs were in love with a Swedish submachine gun, the Carl Gustaf M45, known as the Swedish K. It was reliable in sand, mud, and water. But there was a problem. Sweden opposed the Vietnam War and banned exports to the US. The Navy panicked. They didn't want to lose this weapon, so they forced Smith & Wesson to secretly clone it, creating the S&W M76. It was a desperate move, but it proved one thing. When SEALs find a weapon that works, they will move heaven and earth to keep it. By the 1980s, counterterrorism was priority number one. The gold standard arrived, the MP5 Navy. For 30 years, this was the icon, precise, reliable, and resistant to saltwater corrosion. For absolute stealth, they used the MP5 SD with an integrated suppressor, so effective that the metallic click of the bolt was often louder than the shot. However, modern enemies started wearing body armor and the 9mm round bounced right off. The solution was the HK-MP7. It looks like a pistol but hits like a rifle, firing a tiny high-velocity spike designed to defeat armor. Today, the line is blurring. The new king is the Sig MCX. Gamers might recognize this concept as the Honey Badger. It keeps the compact size of an SMG, but fires the heavy .300 blackout rifle round. It is the ultimate blend of silence and violence. Chapter 4. The Sidearms. Click. That is the loudest sound in a gunfight. When the primary goes dry, this is the insurance policy. The oldest warrior here is the Colt M1911. It served from World War I into the modern era. Capacity was low, only 7 rounds, but the stopping power of the heavy .45 caliber round was undisputed. It hit like a truck. But for stealth, they needed silence, not power. They reached back to World War II for the high-standard HDM, a pistol originally used by spies. It fired a tiny .22 bullet, but it was whisper quiet. Later, they upgraded to the S&W Hush Puppy, designed for one grim task: silencing guard dogs. It had a special lever to lock the slide shut. No click, no cycle sound, just a puff of air and a dead target. In the 80s, the military adopted the Beretta M9. The SEALs famously rejected it. Why? Because early slides would literally crack in half and fly into the operator's face. They tried the HK Mark 23, built to survive a nuclear war. But it was the size of a brick. Operators hated carrying a handgun that weighed as much as a primary weapon. The solution was the Sig Sauer P226. This became the icon. It featured a tiny anchor engraved on the side, proof that its internals were coated to resist saltwater corrosion. For 30 years, this was the mark of a SEAL. But today, the Glock 19 has taken the throne. Old-school operators say it has no soul because it's plastic. They miss the heavy steel of the 1911. But in a war zone, nobody cares about soul. They care that it works. You can drag a Glock through sand, mud, and salt, and it will go bang every single time. Chapter 5. Machine Guns. Precision is nice, but in the jungle, volume is king. In Vietnam, the SEALs possessed a secret weapon, the Stoner 63. It was a transformer, decades ahead of its time. A SEAL could rebuild it from a rifle to a belt-fed machine gun right in the field. It was light, weird, and deadly, giving a single operator the firepower of an entire squad. But the jungle is thick, and sometimes lighter bullets just bounce off the trees. That's why they needed the brute, the M60. Soldiers called it the pig. It was heavy, dirty, and jammed if you looked at it wrong. But it commanded respect. It acted like a chainsaw, firing massive 7.62mm rounds that punched through trees and sandbags, turning the jungle canopy into sawdust. For decades, there was a gap between the rifle and the heavy machine gun. The solution was the M249 SAW. It changed warfare by bringing belt-fed firepower to the individual soldier. Finally, one man could suppress an entire squad. But for the SEALs, the SAW had a problem. It was confused. It was designed to accept both belts and standard rifle magazines. In reality, the magazine slot never worked well and just added dead weight. SEALs needed speed, so they commissioned a custom rebuild, the Mark 46. They removed the magazine port and replaced heavy steel parts with titanium equivalents. It became the ultimate tool for close-quarters violence. Imagine a weapon that spews 800 rounds per minute, but is light enough to snap from target to target in a tight hallway. It turned the machine gunner into an entry fragger. For mounted operations, reliability is king. The M60 was powerful, but the M240 is the gold standard. It's the successor to the M60, lighter, stronger, and infinitely more reliable. It is the workhorse of the teams. It runs dirty, wet, or full of sand. While other guns need cleaning, the M240 just needs ammo. It is the gun that refuses to jam. But when you need to stop a vehicle, you call the grandmother of all guns. The M2 Browning .50 cal. Known as Ma Deuce, she has been blowing holes in enemies since World War II. She is heavy, slow, and utterly destructive. Why hasn't it changed in 80 years? Because you can't improve perfection. It turns cover into concealment and vehicles into scrap metal. And when even that's not enough, they mount the M134 minigun on the boats. This is an electric beast with 6 spinning barrels. It doesn't fire individual rounds. It pours a solid beam of lead at 6,000 rounds per minute. It sounds like canvas tearing, and it doesn't just suppress the enemy, it erases them from the map. Chapter 6. Explosives and Heavy Weapons. Bullets are fine for individuals, but sometimes you don't want to kill a target. You want to delete a grid square. It started in Vietnam with the M79, nicknamed the Thumper. It looked like a toy shotgun, but it fired a 40mm high-explosive grenade. It gave a single SEAL the power of a mortar team. But the SEALs wanted more. So, the Navy secretly built the China Lake grenade launcher. Imagine a pump-action shotgun, but for grenades. It was rare, heavy, and experimental, allowing a point man to pump out explosions as fast as he could rack the slide. But carrying a separate heavy launcher sucks. The solution? Integration. Every squad relied on the M203 and later the M320. These attached directly under the rifle barrel. It gave every operator a pocket artillery cannon ready at a moment's notice. No weapon switch required. One trigger for bullets and one for boom. Today that firepower has evolved into the M32 MGL. Imagine a revolver on steroids. It holds 6 grenades in a rotating cylinder. In under 3 seconds, an operator can blanket an enemy position with fire and shrapnel. And for the ultimate suppression, the MK19. This is an automatic grenade launcher. It doesn't shoot bullets. It spits grenades at 300 rounds per minute. When this opens up, it's not a firefight anymore. It's an excavation project. But sometimes you need to knock the house down. From the disposable M72 LVAW to the modern AT-4, rockets have always been a staple. But the modern king is the Carl Gustaf recoilless rifle, affectionately called the Goose. Unlike the others, it's reusable and smart. It fires laser-guided rounds that can be programmed to explode above a wall, killing enemies hiding behind cover. It turns safe cover into a death trap. Chapter 7. Snipers. Not all fights happen face-to-face. For surgical shots, the SEALs rely on the Mark 13, chambered in the powerful .300 Winchester Magnum. This bolt-action rifle allows a sniper to account for wind and gravity, creating a perfect silence from over 1,000 yards away. But when the target is beyond the mile mark, they switch to the Macmillan TAC 338. This is the heavy hitter used by Chris Kyle for his legendary shots. It fires the massive .338 Lapua Magnum, turning simple mathematics into a lethal art form. But in a city, bolt action is too slow. You need speed. Enter the KACSR-25. It looks like an M4, but it hits like a sniper rifle. Being semi-automatic, it allows a shooter to put 2 rounds in a target's chest before the first empty casing hits the floor. It clears rooftops in seconds. And then there is the monster, the Barrett M82. It fires the massive .50 BMG round. It's not designed for people. It's designed to stop trucks and destroy radar dishes. But in war, it became the ultimate psychological weapon. When this gun goes off, you feel it in your teeth. It is shoulder-fired artillery. But the future is modular. The new king is the Barrett MRAD. Unlike older rifles stuck with one bullet size, the MRAD is a transformer. A sniper can swap the barrel in the field, changing from a patrol rifle to a long-range assassin in minutes. It is the Swiss Army knife of long-range death. Chapter 8. Specialized Gear. Finally, we enter the zero zone. Underwater. If you fire a regular M4 here, the physics of water will stop the bullet in 2 feet. The solution is the HKP-11. It is essentially a pepperbox revolver powered by batteries. It fires long, needle-like darts that slice through the water like mini torpedoes. It's rare, it's classified, and it's the only thing standing between a frogman and an enemy diver in the pitch-black ocean.